All right. Sorry, I am absolutely scrambled. Everything that could have happened in the worst 15 minutes possible did. I got like a work call that I had to call like a bunch of other people and get something taken care of. Right as I was about to start doing the stream stuff. So I probably there's a very good chance that I forgot something. And we're going to just go with it on the fly. And I do apologize. So if anything is off audio wise or video, just let me know. I probably missed something. It's been a minute. So I've been gone for 2 weeks. And basically, um, yeah, we were just busy. Nothing bad, just had to handle some stuff. So we're good. We're back. Good to be back as always. And yeah, we have quite a bit to talk about. We had the release of a brand new set, which is obviously, I'm telling you, anything that could go wrong right now is happening. It is happening. Um, yeah, everything's great. Everything's great. Just been busy. Just been busy. So yeah, 2 weeks. It feels off. It feels off. I was I was very close to almost calling this stream as well, but I was like, it's been 2 weeks. I gotta find a way to do it. So we did it and we're here. So thanks everybody for joining me. I do appreciate it. And once again, sorry about the 2 weeks being absent, but I hope everybody had a good time. Hope everybody had a good, set release. If you went to any pre-releases, I've been so busy. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I don't even know when the Master Guardian pre-release was. I think it was this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken. But um, yeah, I've been looking in the background, analyzing some cards and stuff, and just kind of getting a good idea on things. We had the calling, of course, um, and congrats to CYK as well on that. Very well earned. Wish he could have done it on Runeblade. I know he's a long time Runeblade player, and I wish he could have done it that way. But we'll take it with the Dash IO. We'll take it. So congrats to him. And yeah, lot happening in the fab world. Of course, we got worlds kind of on the, you know, uh, we got worlds on the horizon, right? We still got Kansas City this weekend. And then we have, if I'm not mistaken, a Pro Quest season. And of course, a bunch of events as well. I think there's like a calling every weekend pretty much for the better part of a month. Um, uh, so it wasn't a pre-release, wasn't it like a crack shuffle play kind of thing? I know they did something. I don't remember what it was. But I think you're right. I think it technically was not a pre-release. I think they just had like a come play crack shuffle play kind of situation. Um, so we got LL on the horizon, all of that fun stuff. We're gonna get to that in later weeks as we get more reps into that environment or that meta, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, the stream for today, what I kind of wanted to talk about, and I kind of heard some people talking, in the results, honestly, too, a little bit. Um, a lot of people are coming to the opinion that um, the meta is stale after a brand new release of a set. Uh, if you technically want to classify Master Guardian as a set, which I think it's enough cards to justifiably call it one. But people are already saying that, like, the meta's kind of solved. We still have Gravy and Slippy, and then a sprinkle in of stuff like Dio and just stuff that's already been. Kano's always going to make a splash. It's never going to go away. Um, yeah, and of course Prism's been hanging out as well. So a lot of people are saying that the meta's kind of already solved, or there was no real change. And I don't necessarily disagree with that notion, but as I was kind of thinking about it and reflecting on it a little bit, I basically wanted to take the time to kind of explain how a stale meta doesn't mean a solved meta, and a solved meta doesn't mean a stale meta. And I want to differentiate between the two and kind of explain why things are happening and or why things are not happening, and how it and kind of who's responsible for it. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I think it's one of those subjects where a lot of people share a lot of responsibility, um, in that, believe it or not. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about it, kind of shed a little bit of light on it, maybe just open up some thought processes, and you know, open some discussion. I would also love to hear, as I'm discussing all of this, I would love to hear your opinions on whether you agree, disagree, what do you think about the meta, right? Just to kind of, have that open discussion. Is it good? Is it bad? Maybe the fact of the meta is not the relevant part, but the fact that we've been in it for X amount of time, right? Let me get caught up in chat. Oh, somebody didn't like when we started 5 minutes late. I do apologize. I do apologize, but I appreciate the eagerness. I'll take it. Jamming in the lows. Yeah, I was so behind. I had to like make 3 different calls, and it was it was good stuff. Gravy bands win. We're actually going to talk about that. Kind of inside the discussion, we are gonna discuss that. Title feels like bait. I mean, I'm just here to have a discussion, right? Um, and we're gonna kind of come to what if the meta is solved, and after we get done talking about it, I did want to spend some time, maybe 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes, just thinking about the meta and maybe some just real macro stuff. I'm not gonna like build a deck or anything, but just talk about heroes and be like, does this hero have any opportunity to attack the meta in a unique way, right? And maybe just kind of think outside the box a little bit and maybe come up with some maybe interesting ideas, maybe stuff people have already thought of, whatever the case may be. But just kind of want to discuss it, maybe shake it up a little bit. Good to have you back. I appreciate it. My favorite stream to build mech to. Hey, hopefully it's Dio. Hopefully. Uh, don't think there was a pre-release yet. Master Pack Guardian is the first set where my store didn't have a pre-release. Oh, what up, Marcus? Good to see you. This meta made me realize we always need a bad guy board state hero. Uh, that's interesting. Why does this meta make you think that? Is that you saying that you're highly respecting Guardian and you're glad that Gravy's there to stop it? Um, because I think the board state deck is the one kind of running things right now, right? If I'm not mistaken. I think MPG is about as meta impactful as Max's Armory deck, though the generics might have a small splash. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that and how impactful it may or may not be. Um, so let's. I'm just gonna start talking around it, and let's just dive in. Okay. So a lot of people are making the statement that the meta is stale or the meta is solved, and that is probably compounded or kind of validated by hang on. Text from work about the call earlier. What a day, chat. What a day. Okay. Sorry about that. So basically, um, I'm just gonna start over. I completely lost my train of thought. So people are saying that there's a stale meta, and it's kind of validated by the fact that we're having very similar results in just the calling, Slippy still at the top. There's heavy representation from Gravy, Slippy, just the normal decks. Yeah, there's a splash in the top 8 of Kano and stuff like that, but you can't really like that's cool and everything, but that's not indicative of the meta, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Some people may say I'm wrong. Um, and there is some truth to that, right? There is the fact that we are having very similar results. But one thing that, and kind of what the title is kind of pointing to, is you could have a stale meta, but not a solved one, right? And I'm going to explain how that happens because it is kind of um, when Nathan calls us chat, I like to think he calls us cat and French. Is that an Alabama joke? Is that what that is? If so, it's a good one. So basically, what I think has happened is, and once again, this is my opinion. What I think has happened is the meta has gotten to a point to where it is relatively stable, right? And there's there's a big aspect of whether there's some people that will always try to break the new thing, right? Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. Uh, you know, there's like a lot of, like Yuki is a great player that comes to mind, right? Like she's had a ton of innovation that she's came up with. She kind of like was the front pioneer for like Lexi and a bunch of other decks. And she kind of brought back Bolton a little bit, but we really haven't seen that stick, right? So you do have a set of players that constantly challenge the status quo, right? But the problem is there's a balancing act for the rest of the player base to challenge the status quo, right? And basically, what it kind of boils down to is a meta can be stale. Like I mentioned before, it can be stale and not solved. And it can also be so stale to the point to where the innovation, there's no incentive to chase breaking it, right? So what that effectively would mean is that players they don't have enough confidence in the newer cards or in certain card pools to actually challenge what the player base has already come to the agreement on, aka Slippy, Dio, all of these decks, right? And Gravy, of course. And so typically when a new set comes in, that's where all the, people just really go into the lab. They try to figure all these things out and they try to come up with the new solutions. And I don't see a lot of that going on. In fact, this is probably one of the releases of a product that I've seen a lot of discussion not actually involving the cards, unless it's jokes about it being a gravy set, right? Like that's the only true discussion I'm seeing about this set is the generics. I see people complaining about it and I see people praising it, but I don't see people like, look at this card combination, look what this does. I don't feel like the player base either got enough breadcrumbs to chase something, or the set may be just what a lot of people have alluded to in chat. Maybe the set is just underpowered. And the truth of the matter is, no matter which one of those is true, the result is the same, right? If it's underwhelming, then there will be no impact, right? But if it's so convoluted and there's not a good enough signal to kind of point players in the direction of what you should or should not be doing, right? Like somebody might say, okay, the mill cards, right? Um, is there a strategy? Like the mill is the only thing personally that I see in the Master Guardian set that is like, go do this, right? There's clash cards, there's mill, and then there's like just some like aura hate for something that's historically been bad against auras that will still be bad against auras. Um, and so the mill aspect is so not interesting when Gravy is sitting there, one, wanting to be milled, two, uh, there's just not a lot of decks right now that strategy would be good into, right? Um, I don't want to try to mill Ira. I'm going to play the fastest game possible against Ira and try to outvalue her with Clash, right? Uh, Mill might actually be good against Slippy. That might be actually a viable way to play that matchup. Sure, I'll concede that point. You're not going to mill Kano. There's no way. You're going to die before you resolve any of those cards. So maybe it's not the fact that the set's overpowered, but it's that the breadcrumbs leading to X, right? The treasure map, if you will, it is countered the second it dropped, right? It's like, you know, I can't come up with an analogy just off the top of my head right now, but like you kind of get what I'm saying, where they drop it and they're like, yes, here's the breadcrumbs to go there, but oh, guess what? You can't play that way because of XYZ, right? And so that's kind of the idea, right? And I don't think any really, really strong players are going to currently. There may be some, right? I could be very wrong, right? But I'm saying the general masses, right? Um, let's say like 1,000 people are willing to investigate the mill aspect of the new set and see if there's any like validity behind it. Um, but because gravy exists, let's say 700 of those people are like, fuck that, I'm not even wasting my time, right? Well, now you have 300 people investigating something, and if it's 1,000 people and it normally takes a month to figure it out, well, if you have a third of the amount of people investigating it, theoretically, it should take 3 times as long to come up with a solution for that card set. So, what effectively ends up happening is the counter disincentivizes investigating the new set, which gives the illusion that it's not impactful, when in fact, the reality is it may. And I'm not saying that it is going to be impactful in 3 years. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there's a possibility, because I personally, from my observation, believe that not as many people are really trying to crack this set compared to like normal. And you of course have all your guardian stands that are like diving deep, and I'm going to be honest, something that a lot of people might take offense to, but they're going to have to get over it, whether they agree or disagree. But a lot of innovation in certain classes are not from the specialist of that class, and um, that's just a reality, right? And I think a lot of that is derived from the fact that those people don't have viewpoints and assumptions that they've carried for 2 years, right? You take Eugene, that's played Reinar for 3 years, right? 4 years, 5 years, however long he's been playing it. And I take everything back. He put Nimblism in Reinar. That is the worst example on the planet. Okay. Let's talk about our teammate Josh, right? So Josh, like, might think of Warrior. I've actually had a discussion with him about this, where like one time he was talking about Red Overpower, and I questioned it. I was like, why are you running Red Overpower in this meta? And he goes, well, I've always ran it. And 30 minutes later, he had cut it from the list because he actually had, for the first time, like, just questioned the existence of the card, right? So I think a lot of specialists, this is kind of a side tangent, but I think a lot of the specialists, just do not, um, you know, they don't have the unique viewpoint. I was about to say Eugene is a madman. Yeah, I had the right idea. Terrible example. Eugene is always cooking, right? For better or worse. But man, Nimblism and Reiner, I still don't know to this day why the fuck it was in there. But I agree with whatever the reasoning is because I'm sure he's done the math. So I agree. The set has us underwhelmed. Other sets have had us underwhelmed. Why can't we ever just be whelmed? Because there has to be so many gust waves, Omar. Like that's the true answer, right? If everything is just whelmed, then you run out of names. So you have to have underwhelming gust wave, and so forth. So it just is a reality, and I don't make the rules. But on to seriously answer your question, it's a hard needle to thread, right? Like it's tough. It's really hard to make a set that just hits all the answers, right? Like there's different levers, there's give and take, right? Like do you focus on this being a unique limited aspect or experience, and does that take away from the classic constructed aspect or whatever the case may be, right? Like we've all seen sets that have sacrificed in one thing to really excel in another. Bright Lights is a great example. From a CC perspective, 80% of the set was just dog shit, right? But from a limited perspective, once you actually got into it and understood it, it was actually amazing from a limited perspective, right? And it just happened to be one of those sets that had a priority. Nothing wrong with it, right? It just is what it is. High Seas is probably the closest example of where we've seen kind of really good, depending on your opinion, uh, but in both directions, right? A lot of people were kind of happy with the CC, and a lot of maybe that was maybe the CC impact was kind of influenced a little bit too much of a new class that had a lot of hype around it. Like the point that I'm trying to get at is like everybody knows limited high seas was amazing, right? I don't think anybody's really arguing that. But if you take out necromancer and you put in like any class that already exists, is it as good in CC? I don't know. I can't answer that question because it's just kind of speculation at that point. But it's an interesting thought. Um, and maybe that was just the perfect time to drop necro. That could possibly be it. So, uh, that's the main thing that I wanted to just kind of bring to light is that yes, there is a high chance that the set just does not have that impact, right? Which I'm gonna be 100% honest. Like I was kind of rooting for Guardian players to really get their I don't know how else to say it to get their identity back. Like I feel like Guardian really for the better part of 2-3 years just has not had an identity. Like they quickly got invalidated due to armor creep, or armor values going up, and that kind of invalidated Bravo because everybody has 9 block fridges, and it just doesn't matter that you can dominate because the word crush just doesn't mean anything, right? It has to be an on hit effect for it to actually be uh, at all relevant. So, and like Oldham, right? Like that had an identity, right? Like he was the perfect kind of mid range slash fatigue kind of solution, right? So I I was excited for it to have that new identity, and I'm gonna put in a little asterisk here, a little Mill could be the identity, okay, and maybe this whole aura mixture is as well. Um, I'm gonna lean more toward the mill rather than the aura. I know we got the new Guardian hero coming out that deals a lot with auras and stuff like that. Which is a very interesting way to take the Guardian class, in my opinion. I'm not gonna say that it's gonna work or not because I don't have any idea. But I think the meal aspect is more interesting to people that maybe already have played the class and kind of fell in love with the Guardian playstyle. Because I don't really see, you know, I just really don't see the Guardian players really latching on to the aura style game plan. Um, I'm really that's the one thing when Super Saiyan comes out, that's the number one thing I'm looking at is like, do they actually gravitate to an aura guardian game plan? Because it's kind of like, I don't know, you're like taking Guardian and that's like consistent, defensive, like does all of these things consistently, and you're just adding like this Runeblade esque kind of vibe to it, and I don't know if it's gonna catch on. My theory is that it's kind of gonna go hard one way or the other. I think it's not gonna catch on at all, or it's gonna save the class. I don't think there's really a lot of room in between, because it's so far in one direction. Um, Whereas meal is kind of like, you know, it kind of fits a lot of more Guardian play style. So we'll see how that ends up working out with the release of Super Slam. I'm really interested. Um, I think they'll play that. Once again, it doesn't really fit, right? Like bunch of two, you have to find a way to make your 3 blocks go go to a 2 block and then go back to a 3 block. I don't think Guardian players are interested in that. But once again, I could be wrong. Maybe the puzzle of having 5 intellect is enough to kind of drive that. I don't know. Maybe, but it's interesting. It's interesting having a bunch of zero cost cards in a guardian deck. I don't know. Maybe it works. Who knows? Let me get caught up in chat. They're still paying for the sins of Starvo and Oldham. Yeah. Marlin and Puffin have been pretty low tier, but we'll probably get some expansion slots. And that's another good point that the mill strategy, like, they could not be done yet. Maybe there's something else that kind of like builds into it. They got another product down the line. Hell, maybe it's in Super Slam. I don't fucking know. All I'm saying is this is the first time we've seen like a true like, okay, these cards are meant to mill, with the exception of Arachne, which we know how that went. So maybe they like re-looked at it and they're like, okay, let's put it in this deck instead, kind of thing. I don't know. And so maybe there's more stuff down the road to kind of, do that. Hang on one second. Sorry, I need to ask for a water. I am parched, okay, to say the least. Absolutely parched. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to allude to. I just wanted to give a little bit of perspective, not spend a crazy amount of time, but more like chat with you guys on what you all kind of, feel slash think about the current state of, what direction they're going with certain products or whatever the case may be. Thank you. Uh, let's see. Jarl is not. Sorry, I skipped a bunch of people. Pirate warrior keeping a full grip to swing a weapon to make a gold and throw a boat at me seems pretty gross. Not gonna lie. Um, I think Warriors doing just fine with the new card that they just released. I think they're doing just okay. Um, please don't give me another mid warrior to build LSS. Kasai seems the way of the future. That card is just bananas. Absolutely banana. Jarl is not changing much, but he is siloed from Pure Guardian. Very intrigued. Yeah, I mean, once again, we've kind of discussed this on the stream several times where like that's just how LSS has doubled down on how they're going to balance the game and manage power creep is they're just going to silo, right? They're just going to and this is kind of it's kind of really smart because if I'm being 100% honest, right? One of my biggest concerns when I started playing the game of Flesh and Blood, and I've worried about this since day one, is I felt like the mechanics of the game had a very small, I don't know, the it doesn't scale very well, is what I'm trying to say. And I'll give you an example, right? Like if you take a card and it's zero cost, like and it attacks for 4, right? And if you make it attack for 5, it's bananas, and if it attacks for 3, it's useless, right? It's and of course you can use effects to kind of go in between there, of course, right? But we've kind of seen how successful and not successful that really is. And you know, the difference of something costing 3 versus 4 is astronomical, right? So where in like a game like Magic, right? You can make something cost 1 red mana, 1 blue mana, 1 white mana, right? Or you could make it cost 2 colorless and 1 white. Or there's so many different combinations that you can use to scale a card, right? So you can make it way more powerful and then scale the cost. Or you could make it a lot weaker and make the cost very variable. Like there's so many different levers that they have access to you know design more cards, right? Like it literally just comes down to that. And my biggest concern with Flesh and Blood, and maybe concern's the wrong word, but it's something that I always had in the back of my mind was there's only so many things that you can change about a card, right? You can make it 3 different pitch colors. You can make it not block. You can make it block 1, 2, 3, or 4, right? Like they're just now getting into intellect 5 and 3 and stuff like that on like a real serious note. Um and and that's experimenting with the hero card, but like I'm just talking about like attack action cards. There's like only so much you can do with that. But one thing that I'll admit that's kind of alleviated that worry somewhat is the use of siloing. I think that if you silo, then you get to become a lot more aggressive in your design, and you have the ability to kind of siloing can be like a form of making it cost, a blue and a red specifically instead of just 2 mana, right? Like I don't think it's as intuitive, but it is like a version of that. It is a lever. Is it as good of a lever? Probably not, but it is one that you can use, right? So I think that they've done a very good job at kind of mitigating that worry. The problem is it does come with its pros and it comes with its cons, right? It does prevent this power creep that everybody's always so worried about. But it also creates a lot of like, if you're an old school player that plays a lot of like, this particular Room Blade or this particular Guardian, like you have whole sets that you're excited for because man, like, oh man, this Guardian set's coming out, and turns out it has absolutely dick all to do with what you want to play, right? And all it is it doesn't build on your play; it just creates another option. And so now players, I wonder what that does to people's like loyalty to a particular hero. Um, that's something I've also questioned a little bit. Is like staying on one hero versus kind of branching out within the class. Um, because you very rarely, unless the hero is like critically underserved. Like Reinar would be a good example. Like Reinar for the past 2 or 3 years has been like, getting fed little by little by little in the expansion slot. And now he's about to get topped off with a Eugene Armory deck. Um, but like at the same time, let's use what's a good example? Like Marlin, right? Like let's say you're a Marlin player and then they come out with the Riptide card, right? Like, well, that's not going to do you any good, right? If that's the only Ranger card, I don't fucking know if it is or not. So like, you know, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting to think about. It could go a lot of different ways. Riptide might not even need a new card in every single set now. What do you think about the new bait card? You know, I'm gonna be honest. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it fixes the problem. I think that the bait card is one of the best designed cards LSS has ever made. From just a thinking outside the box, the art is sick. Just what it does, how flavorful it is to Riptide. I think it is a 12 out of 10 in every single aspect. Design, not too impactful, you're not breaking the game, it's not completely useless. Like it's just in my opinion one of the best designed cards um that LSS has ever created from a lot of different perspectives. And is it gonna shoot him straight into, competitive territory? I don't think it will. Um, Once again, I specifically mentioned that I do not think it's bad. I think it will see some play. Um, will it? And it's probably one of those cards where like there has to be a meta where people don't want to engage with your traps. So like how trap heavy do you become? Like there's a lot of different answers that you have or a lot of questions you have to answer before you can actually validate whether that card is good. Because the card could be very good at what it's trying to do, but if there's no application for said card, then it's kind of sucks, right? So that's something that we kind of have to solve when it actually drops and how the meta kind of shapes out. Maybe if they printed cards, a hero that gives benefit when a crush card is simply played, not requiring crush to actually proc. And they've kind of hinted on that with the block cards that just look for a crush card, right? That was another brilliant way to actually add value to crush without making it overly oppressive, right? What's your blind opinion on Pleiades? Is it Pleiades? Pleiades? I don't fucking know. The guitar bitch. We'll go with that. Instant aura that can block feels very powerful, but then it's Guardian. I'm gonna be honest, right? Like Guardian currently is the opposite for Assassin in my eyes, right? Like if a new Assassin comes out, you have to prove to me why it's bad, right? They have so many fucking tools, bonds, codex, all kind of shit. Just raw fucking value, right? Like you have to convince me that this new assassin is going to be bad. Guardian is the complete opposite. You have to convince me that that shit is playable, right? There's just no like I'll tell you like this is how I knew. This is how I knew. I hopped in the Discord. Ed was playing some games. There was a couple other people just hanging out in the Discord. I go, Ed, is Guardian good now? And he did not give me an immediate yes. He had like a 2-second pause, and then we both started talking at the exact same time. And I said, "So that's a no." Because if you have somebody that's just been begging for this class to be good again, been patiently waiting on the sidelines for this class to do its thing, and they get a dedicated set all for them and gravy, you know, and he doesn't immediately say yes, and he's a specialist, and he's been playing Guardian his whole life, just about ever since Vietnam. I mean, literally, just I think he's been playing it since like day one. Been playing Bravo, so it's just absolutely wild. And I knew the second he hesitated that just wasn't there. He hadn't found it yet, right? And so I kind of had a good idea. I was like, okay, it's not immediately busted. It was a good kind of barometer, if you will. And so that was kind of like a good, gauge on the set. I didn't take that as law and just run with it, right? Like I'm not, oh, Ed hesitated, set sucks. No, I didn't do that. But what I did was I was like, okay, there's nothing busted here. So like everything I'm gonna look at, I'm gonna question it. I'm gonna like not go over the moon for it. I'm not gonna sit there. Oh man, this card's busted. Everybody, put it in 14 discords, bro. This shit's busted. Oh wait, did you read it? Like we've all been there, right? We've all hyped up a card because we read it wrong and we didn't spend more than 3 seconds thinking about it. We've all been there, myself included. Um, so yeah, Guardian, you got to prove it to me. Like the the new one that's coming out, like it looks cool. Me personally, I know how this non-attack shit works. I know, trust me, I've been there. And anybody that's played Briar, ask them about Red Earth or Surge. Ask them. Ask them how they feel about Red Earth Lore Surge. You will get people that will say it is one of the most amazing cards ever, right? They'll tell you that. But then they'll also tell you at the same time that man, it's the worst fucking card ever. Because it's one of those cards that you don't want to arsenal it, it's too risky, and if it does the thing, it's fucking amazing. But if it doesn't, if you don't have that blue card with it, fucking sucks. Right? And these auras, sure, they block 3, but Earthlord Surge block 3 half the time. And it, I don't know. I think if they can bake some level of consistency into it, I think it can work. If they're just saying, here's some auras, Guardian players, like feel free to block your hand down, play this, and then really go at them next turn, I don't think it's just going to go well. I really don't. But if they have like a piece of equipment that's like the glue that really just like makes all of this consistent, or a mechanic, I don't fucking know. I'm just saying that if you just throw the auras into Guardian, it ain't going to go well. You have to have some glue in there. I don't know what that is, but that's kind of my speculation currently. The mill stuff reminds me of Dynasty, where most of the set made no sense. Then they started uh, flushing out like the Zen Tigers and now Tough Nut and Rock. Well, this brings up an interesting point, right? And I'm gonna take a moment to be kind of devil's advocate in this situation. Dynasty, if I'm not mistaken, was made 3 years ago, right? Um, I'm pretty sure it was almost 3 years ago, at least. It's been a minute since Dynasty. Somebody, somebody check me on that. But I think it's been about 3 years. And like we've basically as a community we've kind of come up with like that their dev cycle is about a year and a half ish. Um Plus or minus 6 months kind of situation. So like 1 to 2 years. And when I say dev cycle, what I'm referring to is the moment they stamp a set done, it's released 1 to 2 years after that moment. Um, and so the question I ultimately wanted to ask you about kind of you mentioned they were kind of like giving purpose to the or kind of like finishing those cards. Um, I I don't know. Um, that whole transition kind of just doesn't make sense to me on why. Of course, I've never understood why LSS does this method exactly, where they will release something and then they will release something that supports it later on. Um, because it makes that card in the immediate completely useless, right? Like the rock, completely useless card, like just straight meme material, right? And the way that I view it, if I'm being honest, is I don't think they made rock and then, with the intention to make Super Slam down the road. We're more than 3 years out, right? I think that they looked back at rock and said, let's make this useful, right? And if that's the case, and maybe I'm not giving James enough credit, and maybe he has this grandiose map of like every single piece of equipment, which there, to be fair, there are some signs, right? Surging Aether Tide was useless; it became super relevant. Uh, they tried to make the shield relevant, that shit didn't work. And I think Rock is the next one, right? Like all the other ones are pretty much dog shit, like never really been utilized or leaned on from the meta really. And so I don't know. Maybe my point is I think they're looking back, not forward when they're making the cards. Um, it made Rock more useful, but left Season Saver behind so far. Yeah, and but they tried to do that as well, right? They made a couple more blue cards that maybe kind of give it some playability, right? Which I don't think it does, my opinion. Because they literally made a shield that just ups it because you don't start with negative counters on it, right? Rock is the best. I agree. I agree. In fact, Tough Nut is the hero that I'm the most excited about from the new set, believe it or not. So I don't know. But you think Savior is bad? Think of Merciless Battle Axe. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess Azalea's weapon, the Senscour Great Bow, that was the one that actually saw play. So we do see some signs where they're kind of like maybe there was a deeper plan. So I don't know. Maybe James is cooking with oh they've been in the vaults for so long and now they're being only. I don't know. I'm not good at lore shit. I'm just saying. We're missing a piece of the puzzle. There are some spoken, unspoken promises being made. Uh, it was understood as support for Guardian, but it didn't live up for expectations. I mean, that's a good point, right? But my question would be, I guess, what were the expectations? Like, I think that's honestly a question that needs to be answered, or one that's at least worth asking, right? Is it strictly meta dependent? Like, does it always not meet expectations if the heroes that it involves do not go to at least B tier or higher? Is that it? Or is designing a new archetype not enough? Because they did that, right? they're building on the Aura Guardian plan. They introduced a meal, like they fulfilled that. I'll give them that. Like I'm on board, right? Like they provided that. So I guess it's kind of important to define what expectations are, right? Who said it was supposed to be support? Wasn't it always originally pitched as an evergreen product for stores to point new players to? I don't know anything about that. Why would this be an evergreen product? Are you referring to like the crack shuffle play? Because that's been around since Bright Lights. I don't know why Master Pack Guardian. Or are you talking about the 4-player Guardian thing? What the fuck is that called? Smash Palace or some shit, right? Is that what you're referring to? Because that would be an evergreen product for new players, right? I don't know, but it's interesting, right? Like, um, I think it's worth kind of diving into just defining what expectations are because every player is going to have a different set of them. Um, People should read what LSS says about their products. I guess that would be the place. The products page would be the place to find that. Would be my best guess. In the case, MPG was labeled as a way to master a class. And I made a joke on Twitter that it just gave everybody with the when they spoiled the boots. I was like, oh, I get it now. It's just a way for all the other classes to master the Guardian matchup. Because that's like some hard counter shit. Those boots against Guardian, if anybody that dominates. Imagine if we had those generic boots when Azalea was around, bro. Oh my God. She got out just in time. Man, we could have got her. Man, those would be some good boots against Azalea. I'll tell you that much. There'd be some good ones. To me, mastering a class means there is a complete set of cards which also provide depth. Okay, so that's a valid point, right? So you're saying that they're going wide and not deep. That's valid, right? Something that would support that would be they went into too many archetypes at once. Um, Although you do have Super Slam around the corner, which will add depth to the aura plan, right? But probably not the mill, if I had to guess. Um, New hit boots don't hit Betsy though. Yeah, because that's what we're worried about, Tom. Yeah, that's what we're worried about. Would Master Pack Mech be hilarious and also just bright lights too? Um, you can always go 0 to 40. The possibilities are endless. Why not go 0 to 40? Why not? I don't even play Guardian, but I think this misses on that expectation. Super Slam could complement. Um, so normally that's kind of where my mind went too. I was like, maybe we're missing a important piece from Super Slam with them being released very close together. The one thing that has me worried about that idea particularly is remember Master Pack Guardian got pushed back. So if I'm not mistaken, it should have released like 3-4 months ago, which means the products are not that close together, and maybe there isn't synergies. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. We don't know. But something to kind of keep in your pocket. No log is a big drop from LSS. If anybody has affinity towards Betsy, it's gonna be real tough. I think they should have made a log. I'm 100% on board with that. 100%. Um, no log was basically a crime. Um, I'm interested to see what happens with this hero pool. What's the over under on us getting to 50 playable heroes? Because I mean, they just cut back on the points. A lot of new hero like Slippy and Gravy are getting all the points, which are at point 0.5. I mean, we could have a meta where there's 50 playable heroes, like dead ass. It's actually wild. Master your class with an all new Mastery Pack Guardian. This supplementary booster pack has everything Guardian fans need to upgrade their decks, level up their gameplay, and crush their opponents. This is the marketing. I like that you put marketing instead of marketing. It makes it way funnier. LSS also has a pretty bad track record of continuing products. Not sure if we'll see another product lines and stop. 100% 50 playable heroes eventually. That's a scary thought, to be honest. 50? It's gonna look like a modded like Super Smash Bros. Hero select or character selection screen. There's like 400 squares. Select your hero. Oh god, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm curious what people think of, like, I don't know. I need to know if there's draft at Worlds. That's what I need to know. Um, I asked Brian, and he did not give me a straightforward answer. I do not have the intel. So currently, like I've seen the picture that everybody else has seen, where it says Living Legend and Classic Constructed, and there's no mention of draft. But theoretically, that doesn't mean there's no draft. Um, but I could see how somebody could like get to that conclusion for sure. They just can't rotate heroes out fast enough and also rotate in new heroes fast enough to build excitement. You just mega rush heroes out to keep the count low. It makes hero fans angry. Yeah, it's a balancing act. It really just comes down to who are you trying to make happy, and it's not an easy question to answer. I need to know if you started to explore LL, and if you are, what do you think about the meta? So I have been looking into LL, and I'm going to go on a little LL rant because of your question, if you don't mind. And I'll eventually answer your question. I just can't guarantee when. But I was excited to kind of jump in. I was really excited to kind of jump into LL because, to be honest, I miss playing Briar. Like, it's literally that simple. I was excited to jump into the format and really kind of just explore it under the premise that I get to play Briar, right? And I had a very unfortunate realization, to say the least. And I'm gonna give you an analogy to explain it. The macro of it is playing your hero in LL, in my opinion, is not playing the hero that you enjoyed in CC. And I'll explain it with an analogy, right? Let's say somebody was biking or cycling down the countryside with an amazing view, right? And they just fell in love with the aspect of cycling, and that was like their hobby that they just loved doing, right? They just loved waking up at 5 in the morning, biking down this road with the scenery, whatever, right? You take that person on that bike, put them in New York City. Okay. Are they biking? Yes. Are they doing the action that they so enjoyed? Yes. Is it the same? And I found out it wasn't. Um and it was kind of unfortunate because I thought I kind of had an understanding on what the LL format, why it existed, right? I thought it was an avenue for players to kind of like rekindle that experience with the heroes that they quote unquote lost. And once again, I'm just speaking from my experience personally. And I don't want to try to influence anybody else's. I encourage you to give it a try. But at the end of the day, like, it wasn't the same. It was a bunch of games that ended in 3 turns and, either I drew the big stuff or you did. It wasn't the Briar and Icelander match where you were fighting for, you know, any grasp of control you possibly could. Wasn't any of that. My favorite matchup in Flesh and Blood that I've ever played, and it will always be the same, is Briar versus Oldham. That match is my favorite ever in the game of Flesh and Blood. And if you play that match in LL currently, in its current state, it's not a game. It's Briar is going to blow the shit out of Oldham, and it's just a matter of when. Um, and it for me, just it was not. It wasn't the same. And when I reflected on it, it kind of bummed me out. I was like, I, I thought this was it. I thought it was, invest everything into this hero, go over here, and like I was like, man, they're doubling down on LL. I'm gonna be able to like actually invest in the hero. It's just not the same. It's not the same. It's like another comparison is like, what if Icelander is like literally just can't even get a grip on aggro because of all the tools they have now. If you have an Icelander player and they're just getting like dicked over by aggro, what do you think they enjoyed about Icelander? Well, they probably just, let's be honest, they love seeing the misery in the opponent's eyes when they gave them 3 frostbites and they passed their turn, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way, like you do you. If that's what you enjoy, I respect it, right? But like that's what those players enjoy doing. That's what blue players like, right? And if you go to LL and Zen just blows you the fuck up because he can pay through your bullshit, then it doesn't matter. You're not getting that experience again. It's not the same thing. And I don't know. That could have been on me. Like maybe it's my fault that I expected it to be the same thing. I'll concede that point. Maybe there is a maybe that's not LSS's intentions. But my question is like why is it here? Um because I don't want to bike in New York. That doesn't sound fun. Um If anything, I don't know. It I mean, it's gotta evolve as more heroes enter. I mean, but does it? But does it? Like, Will, you're a great example. Azalea just entered LL, right? That aggro matchup that you used to be like 50-50 into, you draw red in the ledger, you win the game, right? There are decks in LL that you can red in the ledger them for 13 with 3 different on hits. They will hold their hand if it's good enough, and then they will just fucking kill you. They will pass the turn, IP4, and kill you, right? And what it will do is any Azalea player that tries to play that hero in LL, your cards will be invalidated. Everything that you enjoyed about the hero will be invalidated. And this is coming from the person who is on the beneficial side of that equation. If you look at Briar right now in LL, she is easily one of the top decks. I'm on the advantageous side of this equation. I'm getting the benefit. My hero is good, but it's not the hero that I played before. I'm not mid-ranging anybody. I'm not doing value analysis. I'm just drawing the cards. Oh, turns out you're dead, right? Or oop, turns out I'm dead, right? It's not, I don't know. And I tried to, I kind of thought about it. It was actually a couple of days ago. I was like, why does it not, or why is the perception different versus, you know, why is the perception different here rather than like an older format in like Magic, right? And I think the difference is in Flesh and Blood, you latch to the hero, right? Like that's like you don't have a Rake the Embers player. You have a Dromai player, right? Like you can't name one card other than maybe Codex of Frailty and Art of War. Those are the only two where I would even entertain the idea of that, like you have a player that just plays that, right? That's the only argument I could see. Whereas the old Magic stuff, they had a connection with the cards, right? And when you take a card from here and play it over here, guess what? It plays the same, right? I don't know what fucking card it is. The one where you get an extra turn. What is it? Time Walk? That'd be a hell of a convenient name. You take that card, Time Walk. You could have played that card in 1996, whenever the fuck it came out. I don't know. And you could play it today, and it does the exact same thing. But when I played Briar in 2022, it doesn't do the same as 2025 because the connection was with the heroes, not the cards within the heroes. And when you put that combination of cards in an environment, it has to adapt to the environment. So therefore, you're not playing the same thing. So that is to whoever answered the asked the LL question. I apologize. I went on like a huge rant there. But as far as the meta, I mean, the meta is interesting. It's just it's super explosive, and maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know. I don't know. It just seems really explosive, quick games. You know what happens? Higher variance, like Yu-Gi-Oh esque kind of situation. You can have really well built deck, and one bad hand kind of ruins the game. Whereas CC, it's lower enough power to where you can kind of claw back an advantage if you get a bad hand. kind of situation. So um, I think the meta is fine for what it is. Um, but you know, up to you on whether that's what you want it to be. I guess I don't know. I have a connection to cards that say warrior on it because they allow me to play route. That's fair, Josh. That is fair. LL needs 3 to 5 more years. But does that change anything I just said? I don't think it does. I don't think it changes a damn thing. Let's fast forward 20 years and there is 150 heroes to choose from in Living Legend. The power level is what is driving this. If the power level was down to CC, I would have not said anything that I did because I would have had a Briar deck that was very relatively close to what I played in CC, and all of those connections would have been identical. You know, the nostalgia would have been established. It would have gripped me in hard. Like, it is what it is. We know that stuff's effective, right? And, you know, like that's I don't know. I don't think time or the number of heroes or I'll give it to your point. Maybe they need 3 to 5 more years to balance it. That maybe, like, maybe they need to just power it down a little bit. I don't know. I'm just saying that under its current situation and structure, it doesn't serve the purpose of what I thought it was. And maybe my interpretation is wrong. LSS will have to be the one to make the definition on what. That's one thing I'd really love to hear LSS actually say, not in some marketing bullshit, but like during a dev talk, like, look, this is why we're investing in LL. That's what I want to know. I want what is driving it. Like, is it to serve a reconnection with those heroes? Is it, you just want a high power format? You know, don't give me that bullshit of like, oh yeah, we're trying to do 14 different things at once. No, don't give me that bullshit. I want to know when James or Brian sits down and they are making a critical decision involving LL, whether it be letting a card go, not, whatever the case may be. What is the number one and number two thing that they consider when making the decision? What is what do they call that? The philosophy, right? When they banned all the book burnings and they changed the dev philosophy or the design philosophy, whatever they call it. What is the philosophy of LL is what I want to know. Because I thought it was one thing and either it's not that or they're failing at fulfilling that. One of the two. I don't know which one it is, and I'm not gonna try to speculate to say which one it is. You know where Briar is, is a lot like past Meta Briar, Project Blue. Um, I'll try it. I'll try it. I just haven't seen any like Project Blue events really pop up, and I'm kind of waiting for it to kind of catch on, which means I guess I'm part of the problem. If everybody sits around and waits for it to blow up and don't take action, then it doesn't. So I guess I'm I'm kind of the problem there. I would argue that Vintage and Legacy also have shifts from their predecessor decks. What do you mean shifts? LSS has a hard time balancing set design for CC to where they don't break draft. So in turn, that kind of hurts the CC card pool, but also can break LL or hurt LL. I mean, it definitely can. Um, hmm, it's interesting. I just had a thought cross my mind of like, what if they designed a like draft product? Like what if you dropped bright lights and what's considered like the best CC set? I don't know, Outsiders maybe. Maybe that's a bad example. What's like the set that's known for its CC impact, like across the board? MST, I guess. Like whether you think that's a success or not, I guess is it's kind of up for interpretation. But what if you? I guess like what if you dropped a bright light set and an MST set really close together? That way you didn't have to sacrifice, and then the set can be much smaller, right? Because you're not having to fill as many. I guess the draft one can't. I know you have product fatigue, and we can't get enough product now, but I don't know. I'm curious of what can happen if you don't have to make the point that I'm trying to make. Clay, to your point is like, what could be done if you didn't have to placate, in one direction or the other? What if you made like this is the CC set? We're not gonna make 40 cards that will never see play because of draft. We're gonna save that for the draft experience, right? And maybe it doesn't change anything at all. Maybe it's too many products in the product design. Maybe that would introduce way more power creep because you have a lot more density. Um, well, theoretically, because if you didn't make it more competitively dense, then there's no point of really making that change. So it's kind of it's interesting. It's interesting. Um, do you think in terms of world's level competition, does LL end up introducing more variance in random blowout as compared to draft or blitz? I would say it would be relatively the same as blitz, but way more variance than draft. Um, and I'll explain that from a very logical and kind of mathematical approach, right? I- Theoretically, if you have a game that lasts, you know, 10 turns, and you have a really good player, right? We'll just use the example of like Hamilton, right? You got Michael Hamilton over here, and you have maybe an average player on the other side, right? Um, it, if Michael was to draw a bad hand in a 10 turn game, the game is long enough to recoup the value of that bad hand. Like, let's say it's bad, right? Like, he only gets 4, 5, 6 value out of the hand because it's like that bad, right? But he has 9 more turns to be the better player, and you can eke out that advantage. If you take LL or Blitz, which, by the way, a lot of people are going to disagree with this statement. It's actually kind of the same thing. Hot take, but I'll explain. You have Blitz, which is lower power, lower life. And then you have LL, which is much higher power, but higher life, which means you go through the life a lot quicker, which results in the same exact thing. Maybe not from a magnitude perspective, but it does kind of resemble it. Okay. So in LL, that brings me to my point. You don't have as many turns to recoup the value of any. Some people are going to say, "Oh, yeah, it's a bad play that you can't recoup from." Well, no, there's just variance in card games, right? You could just draw a bad hand, or you could miss on a swell, right? You missing on a swell in gravy, or a chart or something like that, like the impact. If the game lasts 3 turns, missing is catastrophic. If the game lasts 12 turns, it's not that big of a deal, right? And so anytime there's a shorter timeline, That's how it is. Um, so that's kind of my opinion on the variance. So overall, it will increase the variance compared to what they previously do with CC and draft. Because draft, I there is some variance in it, of course, but I think that it's very skill intensive, very skill intensive. Which I'm not saying LL is not. I'm just saying that it's not as. Uh, Please don't encourage them to increase product release rate. My wallet is still recovering from Singapore. I'm not saying that's the solution. I'm just saying that imagine what could be done. I don't know. Doesn't doesn't Magic do this where they make like this like Giga CC set? Like what is it called? Fuck, I don't play Magic, so modern something. Modern Horizon, I think is what it's called. Where it's like this is just the fucking juice, right? For this format, I'm assuming for modern. I'm just making an assumption there. I think that's a format. So you know, what if that is what if they did something like that? I don't I hate suggesting thing like, "Oh, let's do what Magic does." Well, yeah, I don't want to do that, but I'm just saying maybe we could take an idea and make it better. I'm just saying. So, you know, I don't know. It's just a thought. I'm just curious if like what CC set could they make if they were like, I don't give a fuck about draft. And what draft set? Well, we know what the reverse looks like. That's bright lights. Sorry, I had to say it. I had to say it. Sorry, I wasn't right. But where's the lie though? Where's the lie though? Let me. They need to bring back expansion boxes. Do you mean like supplemental sets, like Everfest and stuff like that? Maybe, may I guess that is closer, right? Like, okay, so we just reverse engineered our way to what we have already done. So yes, we need Everfest again because Everfest was just an injection of CC and it literally revolutionized it. It broke it in half multiple times over, but it was cool. Uh, so that's funny. Turns out they had already done it and stopped. So what if day two was LL? They may be the most impartially round top eight wise, but almost every top eight player loses a game or two. Then, yeah, it could be. Because from a skill perspective and skill expression, it's like draft actually probably has the least amount of variance than anything. And that's why you hear a lot of competitive players say, well, making top eight at a big event is just doing good in draft, right? And you can see it. Like you look at any person that is top eighted, you'll have like six or seven of them that 5-1 or 6-0'd the draft, and then they'll have like two losses in CC, right? You might have one that like 4-2 draft and then went undefeated in CC. The reverse is way more common, and it's for that reason. So what? Already answered that. So they can focus on draft boxes and expansion set and help pull other classes. Yeah, I'm down for any idea. The convey has sprawled past my point, but I look forward to seeing the emerging gameplay as card pool deepens. But I think we are converging on the design space limitations of current fab design. John, I agree with you. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, it's something I've always kind of had in the the back of my mind with the limitations. I think siloing is a good solution. The honest question is like I feel like we're going to reach a point where the player base is just kind of tired of siloing. I think a lot of players are just going to like become allergic to the idea almost. um, and just kind of get fed up with, right? Because like when they make the ninth playable guardian, like I don't know, I'm gonna ask a serious question, like who gives a shit? Um, I don't know. And none of them have, or most of them don't have overlapping card pools and things like that. So it's an interesting argument. I'm curious of like once again, I'm impressed on what siloing has done for the game and prevented extreme power creep and still created exciting sets. I just don't think it's a long term solution. I truly believe that because I think it's almost like that. I, I I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to compare it to. Thanks for your breakdown. I've honestly been feeling the same. People have talked about Blitz being not a great format, but hearing about how you may not even see a tunic. I mean, yeah, it's exactly how it is. Yep. I just had a terrifying thought of a 4 inch color stripe. It'd be purple, of course. MTG Modern is its own form. Yeah, we already did the 60 health LL. I mean, look, I'm up for anything, to be honest. History pack 3 plus extras. Yeah, I'd be down. Wonder if Modern Horizons type of set for LL would work better in Fab based on the point you made earlier about players being connected to the hero as opposed to the cards. Well, so that kind of I like your thought process, right? But once again, I think that would kind of exacerbate the situation, right? Like let's say I'm this huge Briar fan, right? And like you drop me like a Rosetta set, but it's actually designed for Briar and not, the other Rune Blades. And I get like 30 cards that are all like entertainable, playable kind of situation. I'm gonna end up building a deck that is optimal, that is even further away from like what I originally enjoyed about the hero. Um, and maybe they could take this very tailored approach and like really zoom in, but that's hard from a design perspective. If anybody can pull it off, it'll be LSS, but man, that would be tough. Um, LSS is so focused on draft. I don't know if they are. It might not be at Worlds. I don't know. Um, I the viewership of draft is atrocious. I mean, there's no secret there, right? Like you watch any tournament and you can see the number just like get cut in half the second they go to limited. Uh, and I'm interested. Is that the same for Magic? Does the viewership just like drop off like a rock the second they do limited? I'd be interested. Maybe the next time they do a pro tour or something, I'll kind of like tune in for a second and kind of watch the number and see if it happens. But I would be interested to know that because viewership on limited is terrible in MTG. Okay, so it's just something that people do not enjoy watching. Period. Okay. Uh, but the thing is, like, players love playing it. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe LSS like break. I don't suggest this, but like, I don't know. What if they made a format that was different? Like, what if they could find a way to create a new, like, legit unique format, not just a different way to play the game, but like you have constructed, you have limited, and what if they just created like this abstract, just completely different concept? You don't have to go that crazy with it. Maybe it doesn't have to be that outside the box, but I, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I guess there's only so many ways you can open a pack and take cards from it. It's kind of funny. Modern Horizon is why I stopped playing Magic because the cards I was connected to aren't good enough anymore, but it possibly work here. Um, and see, that's the unique part is like people feel the connection not to the cards, but to the hero. In my opinion, I could be wrong, it could be different for you. But I think people feel that connection to the hero and the way the hero played. So I guess you're right. If you inject it with a bunch of power, then it just kind of, kind of exacerbates the problem a little bit. Not the bug expansion set like before, but anything to pull other CC heroes. Yep. I don't know about that. Yu-Gi-Oh has a silo design for so many years, and people still love the new archetypes. Yes, but you are placating to a completely different demographic, in my opinion. And I'll explain my thought process. Right, Flesh and Blood is very methodical, mechanical. Like you know, people like to you attract like a strategy game player, like somebody that plays strategy games. Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh is more like your first person shooter, right? It's all action packed, like stuff, bunch of stuff happening, high actions per minute, shit like that, right? Um, so that's my main premise on why I don't think that it'll work is because if you injected a first person shooter aspect into Civilization 7, I don't think it would click, is all I'm saying, right? Like that's just a hypothetical. That's all I'm saying. I don't think the community would be very receptive. So I definitely agree that it works. I just think that you're trying to sell a first person shooter to a chess player, and it just I don't think it works. Or it might have a novelty for X amount of years, but once again, I just don't think it'll be a long-term solution. I think there's gonna have to be something else that kinda happens to really just provide and once again, when I say I don't mean next set, I don't mean the set after that. I'm talking 3 years from now, right? Like, people might be like, "Look, I'm done buying into Assassin 15," right? Where none of the cards overlap, like, it may take time. The community might be a lot faster on it. I don't know. Um, you know, we now have armory decks that is pseudo expansion. That's true. Don't forget about Silver Age is the thing that we know nothing about. You're right. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that is. I saw the Icelander thing, but um do Heroes LL and Project Blue? I'm the wrong person to ask. I don't know anything about Project Blue except the name. I played Zen and couldn't switch to Syndra based on almost no overlapping cards or equipment. That's exactly my point, right? Um, to be fair, would you rather watch a football game or just the halftime show? I mean, depends on who's doing the halftime show. I'd argue that the draft issue in Fab is due to hero nature of the game. In MTG, you have the color pie that makes it easy to have styles you can play, but in Fab, not possible. It's true, in my opinion. But I don't know if I agree with that so much because like in Marlin, you had different like types, right? You had like Harpoon Marlin, Redline Marlin, Gravy. You had heavy allies, not so many allies. Puff, and you had like a bunch of pumps, no pumps. Stuff like that. I agree, but to like a lesser extent. Like I don't think it's a one to one. Limited is just not fun to watch. That's fair. and maintained interest in opening packs beyond the first month or two of the meta. That's true. You want PvE? I don't know. Do I? I think 2v2 tag team would be cool format for Fab. Or fuck, Riftbound's doing 2v2 and 3v3 and 5v5, I think, tournaments. Like, that shit looks insane. The issue with draft viewership is that people aren't necessarily attached to those heroes, let alone the young bird. That's a good point, actually. It's a really good point. I see this title and Phil called out. Sorry about that, Kevin. That was a good comeback on the podcast, by the way. You got me kind of good. You got me kind of good. I was just trying to give you shit. I thought it was pretty funny though. But yeah, I just think that the juice is not worth the squeeze currently in the meta to innovate. It's possible, like you might have somebody that you know does it and is successful. I'm just saying that for most of the player base, it seems like the juice is not worth the squeeze. In regards to kind of doing that. It's kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. Also, play styles. Hero and classes are like colors in MTG. If you really enjoy Wizard, the set that has zero Wizard, you're out of luck. Good point. Good point. 3v3 event that happened was pretty cool. Could even be more one of like that. That's true. That was something that was really cool that they should do again. Although, if they decide to do that again, they should not let the devs play. That no offense to the devs, no shade. I just think that when you had 3 events and 2 of them were won by someone with a dev on the team, it's just I don't think it's the best look. Is all I'm saying. Um, Unified deck construction is that like where if like only one person can have like a tunic and you can't have every player playing a tunic? Is that what you mean by unified? If so, like me and Josh actually had that idea to play games like that, and that would be kind of you know that'd be kind of cool. Shady like a palm tree right there. Yeah, it was like it was cool like watching them and everything, but like after the fact, I was like, maybe that wasn't a good idea. But it was cool. Like once again, like it was a blast, like seeing the devs like enjoying themselves and some of the recordings and stuff. Like I get it, and like it's got to be great for them, and maybe it's worth it. Maybe like you just take that hit to let the devs just reminisce a little bit because every one of them misses it. I guarantee it. So maybe it's just worth it letting them go out there and have a blast. Maybe it's worth it. Although, like, what they should do this was such a good idea and they never did it again. The very first world championship, God, this was such a good idea. And they never did it again. The first world championship, players, you had the top 8, and then players 9 through 16 got an invite to a tournament the next day while the top 8 was going on. They did a like 8 versus 8 a bracket against all the devs. So you had like a little 8-person tournament. Well, 16 technically because the 8 devs or whatever. And they just played, and then the winner got like a gold foil crown of Dominion, I think. And it was just sick. Like that was a good fucking idea. There were more people. I know this because I was fucking one of them. Standing around that table watching those games than were watching the top 8 at Worlds. It was that exciting to just see players playing the devs and like, oh, can they get one over on them, stuff like that. And then you see like some unique moves from the devs and stuff like that. And like they get expressive about like some of their, the heroes that they're passionate about and stuff. It was just the coolest shit ever. And it was an absolute blast to watch. And I really wish that they would do that again. One, because like who doesn't want to play with the devs, right? And then two, it's just cool as shit. Like the the fucking devs, I guarantee they had a blast. That was just the coolest shit ever. So I hope they do that again. I really do. Went to a 3v3 1K in Houston. Was a great time. Devs versus plebs. Hell yes. Hell yeah. I'm telling you, it was a blast. Jason played Levia. Uh Jacob played Bravo. Trying to remember what everybody else played. God, I'm assuming if Carroll was there, I don't remember if he was, but if he was there, I guarantee he played Reinar probably, and then probably Mr. Classic on Katsu if I had to guess. But that was it was a good time. It was a good time, and they were having a blast. Like they were like competitive, but like they were shit talking a little bit. It was good stuff. It was just it was good. It was good, like an in person dev talk kind of situation. It was good stuff. Do that again, but have the devs play unreleased test cards slash heroes. I don't know. I don't know about that. That gets a little deep because then like marketing would not like that because that's not like grandiose enough to get the attention. Like the value on that is not good. But I love the idea. Just marketing would have a shit fit over that idea. Is all I'm saying. But it's a good one. So yeah. I'm still waiting. Sorry, I gotta read something from work. Feel free to ask any questions, and when I look up again, I will answer them. Sorry about that, chat. Gonna send. I'll answer this after. I apologize. Devs, but on their worst hero. Now that's a good idea. I love that one. I love that one. Still waiting for LSS to drop a spec for an unreleased hero in a random set. Yeah, to just really push the narrative of, you know, cards that make no sense right now to making sense in the future. Why not? Why not? So yeah, I'll give it another few minutes. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to throw them in chat. If there's anything that we you would like to discuss that we did not discuss, I'd be more than happy to catch it. And yeah, other than that, if everybody's content, we might go ahead and call it here in a minute. Um, I do apologize. I think I ended up lying, but it's getting late. I thought we were gonna have time to Go by heroes, and I guess we can still kind of do that to a smaller extent. But is there any room currently in the meta to kind of really come up with any true innovation? And the answer really becomes how good are the generic go again tools? Stuff to kind of combat gravy, right? Um, and I think there are tools. I just Fang doesn't have it, in my opinion. Florian's a no go. Ira is a good kind of middle answer if you want to be kind of like okayish into everything. Um, I don't know what else really. Acilio is a really good answer. Maybe the shit is just solved. Um, I don't know. Maybe we finally get a gravy ban, not because like he could use one. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like he could probably use it. Um, I just realized that I did the entire stream on this on this screen. Y'all have been looking at my ugly mug for 2 hours straight. No screen, no nothing. We're just chatting. Oh my god. I just become a just chatting YouTube streamer. This is how it ends, chat. This is oh god, it's happened. It's happened. We're not playing games. We're not talking about anything off stream. Like just nothing on screen. I've literally had the camera pointed at me the entire 2 hours. Holy shit, this is how things go to die. Um, all right. Am I getting my $5? If I see you in person, $5 is yours, guaranteed. Guaranteed. Are you going to Worlds? If you go to Worlds, I got 5 for you. You earned it with the puffin. That's funny. Casey winning hero. I think Gravy's gonna readapt and take it down. As non-climactic as that may be. Can you briefly touch on the stale meta point? I missed it. So the kind of idea that it is, um, basically what happens is when a new set comes out, there is X amount of people that are willing to investigate it and figure out how it impacts the meta. Okay. If there is something out in the distance, aka gravy, that directly counters all aspects of it, it disincentivizes people to spend the time looking into those things. Like if you adopt the mindset, which may or may not be true, whatever you decide, Guardian just absolutely folds to gravy, right? If you subscribe to that logic, then you're not going to spend any time looking into the set because you know gravy's going to be 30% of the field, right? So now you had a what normally would be 1,000, 2,000 players that go hard in a set trying to figure it out. Now it might be 500, might be 300, whatever whatever the case it may be. So whatever the result this set will have, we may not see it for 2, 3 months, whatever the case may be. And what I'm actually interested in seeing is maybe it would actually be very smart. So basically, the overall synopsis is the juice is not worth the squeeze on figuring the shit out. Is kind of where I'm getting at. Because the breadcrumbs that they left lead to shit that is just automatically shut down. And what would be interesting is hitting gravy, not from a balance perspective, but to maybe like imagine how many people would look into Guardian if gravy just got slapped with a ban, like a nice one, right? Bro, you would have people just skimming through this set over and over and over again if that happened, and it was like truly, truly impactful. I don't know. Is Gravy Bones solved, or do you think there's still room for innovation? So there's I think he's solved. but there's always innovation for the counters, right? Like currently, Gravy is being asked the question to overcome Blanche. That is Gravy's current on the top of his list. If every deck runs Blanche into you, what the fuck you gonna do about it, right? This could result in different armor suites. It could be, uh, better blocking cards, more hands that do thing without having blues, right? Whatever the case may be. So that's kind of the idea. There's always room to innovate on the counter, not necessarily the deck. Why is Puffin so fun but bad? I wish I had an answer, but you're accurate. You're accurate. Just a lot of variables. It's good risk reward, but just you have to have all the pieces for it to be for it to pan out. Unsure if you spoke on this, but what do you think the purpose of release GMP was? Was it to help the Guardian class, or was it for Smash Palace? Maybe it was a segue from Smash Palace. Like, there's a bunch of Guardians of Smash Palace. Oh, they like the game. And so you drive them into Master Guardian. So now they play that. And then now you have Super Slam as well. Maybe that's the line. I see the logic. I don't agree with it. I don't know about y'all, but I did not fall in love with the first deck I played. I did not invest hundreds of dollars into the first deck I played, right? Maybe I'm a minority here, but I played like 4 or 5 different decks before I found like Runeblade, right? Honestly, I really enjoy this type of content. Something about your attitude and outward outlook toward the game changed post Nats, and it's been refreshing to watch. Looking forward to the next one. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I go through phases. I go through phases where I'm very critical of the game and not so critical of the game. and we're in the critical part in case you haven't noticed. So um yeah, the stream wasn't intended to go this route, but we just chat brought some shit up. We went on a little topic about biking in LL, and here we are. On my way to but on my way to put in PTO for Worlds. Hell yeah. Pair the others. I'm playing cards. Oh shit. The juice is not loose. Players in general also tend to sleep on heroes for a long time if they aren't OP on release. Of course. Of course. Oh no, I just got here. Did I miss the tier list? No tier list. No tier list. Not this time. Why spend time on innovation when you can be prepping solved or proven things? It's a good point, right? Canadian Highlander adjacent. Certain power cards get pointed decks that can only contain X. Yep, build around. Yep, I agree. I agree. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for joining me on the stream. I really do appreciate it. Uh, sorry if I went rambling a little bit too much. Some of you seem to enjoy it, and yeah, thank you for joining me. Did you see I completely missed that. Did you see allocation for Super Slam is really bad too? I did not. Oh God. Um. Huh. If allocation is also bad, that could be that could be the indication on why there's no limited worlds. That's a line I could draw. Which, if that's true, chat, I want you to understand the brevity of this situation. It means for high seas, they learned their fucking lesson. If that is why. If they just did it for any other reason, then there's a chance they could not have. But if they saw the disaster that was the high seas release and they were like, we don't want to do that again. So let's just do this instead, then like hell yeah. They learned. We're good. We did it. We move on. But that's interesting. Allocation for super slant. Where has that been said? Is my question, or is it speculation? Is it because I would question the validity of wherever that came from because LSS would never say that outright. I don't think they would. Anyway, I digress. Thanks everybody for joining me. It's good to be back after the 2-week break, and I will be back next week where you will not have to look at my mug for 2 hours straight. We'll actually do something else. I guess I had to. We'll chalk it up to I had to get caught up with chat. We'll put it that way. And I will see everybody next week.